the hands that saved her. She looked at the hands that saved her life and told me they'd ruin her wedding photos. Let that sit for a second, because I sat with it a lot longer than a second. My name's Jack Reese. I am Pinjishonte Cheche. I've lived in Cincinnati my whole life, and up until 6 months ago, I would have told you the worst thing that ever happened to me was already behind me. I would have been wrong. Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and get comfortable. This one's going somewhere. The private dining room at that venue in Indian Hills smelled like rosemary and money. Thick white tablecloths, votive candles lit at 2 in the afternoon, because apparently ambience doesn't care what time it is when you're spending someone else's money. I sat at the end of the table, across from my daughter Lauren and her fiancé's family, the Werners, old Cincinnati money, the kind with a country club membership older than most of the staff. My ex-wife Helen sat 2 seats down, laughing too loud at something about chicken versus salmon. Her husband Aiden, Lauren's stepfather, had his arm slung over Helen's chair like he owned the building. 25 years, I raised that girl. 25 years, and I was the guy at the end of the table like an afterthought. The server set down ramekins of braised short rib. I reached for my water glass, and I saw Lauren's eyes drop to my hand. Everybody sees it eventually. The skin on the back of my right hand doesn't look like skin, tight, shiny, ridged like wax that melted and hardened wrong. My fingers don't bend the way fingers should. 20 years, and I never really got used to people staring. Lauren's face flinched, like she'd bitten something sour. "Dad," she said, quiet, then leaning in like she'd rehearsed it. "I love you, but look at your hands." The table went silent. Mrs. Werner found her water glass very interesting. "They're rough. They're scarred. They're going to ruin the pictures. The photographer said the close-ups holding my hand will look terrible." She gestured at Aiden like a car commercial. "He's got nice hands. He wears a ring well. And the groom's family is very high society. I don't want things to be awkward." Then the knife twisted slow. "He's walking me down the aisle. You can sit in the back row." Aiden had the decency to look uncomfortable. Helen didn't. Helen looked relieved, like a weight had lifted off her. I looked down at my hand around that glass. "I wish I could tell you. I said something, some perfect line that put her in her place. I didn't. I've replayed that moment 400 times, and every time I do the same thing." I nodded, stood up, folded my napkin once the way my mother taught me, and walked out without a word. Cincinnati traffic on 71 South doesn't care that your heart just got carved out with a butter knife. I drove home to my one-bedroom off Erie Avenue in Hyde Park. Modest place, exposed brick, the kind of apartment a guy rents when he's got money he refuses to spend on himself. I ended up on the floor of my office, an old shoebox of photos in my lap. First one on top. Lauren, 9 years old, vanilla ice cream in one hand, mine in the other outside Aglamesis Brothers. Every Saturday, rain or shine, I picked her up after my shift at the hydraulic plant in Norwood. Good union job, honest calluses. She'd come tearing across the yard yelling, "Daddy," like I'd been gone a year. Ice cream, always vanilla. Then I'd hoist her onto my shoulders so she could wave at the guys on the loading dock. "There's my hero," she'd shout, dripping ice cream on my collar. One of those Saturdays, payroll had messed up my checks. I brought her into the plant with me. She was drawing on a napkin in the break room when a main hydraulic line ruptured. Pressurized, scalding, chemical-treated fluid blowing out like a fire hose made of acid. I didn't think. I threw myself over her, back to the blast, arms wrapped around her head. It caught me across the back, the arms, mostly the hands. Not one drop touched her. She walked away without a mark. I didn't. Helen filed for divorce 4 months later. I sat across from her in a lawyer's office, my hands still wrapped in bandages, and she wouldn't even look at them. "You brought her to that plant, Jack. You're reckless. I can't trust you not to put her in danger again." She knew exactly what I'd done. That's what made it worse. This wasn't ignorance. It was guilt wearing anger like a mask. Easier to be furious at me than admit she wasn't the one who saved her daughter. She got full custody. I got weekends, then every other weekend, then less. The way ice melts so slow, you don't notice the puddle until you're standing in it. And somewhere in those years, she rewrote the story. Lauren at 13, asking me not what happened to you, but why did you let that happen? 15 years of Helen's voice in Lauren's ear. I had her every other weekend, if the schedule cooperated. You do the math on whose version won. The lawsuit against the plant took 3 years, and I won big. The kind of settlement that changes a family's trajectory. I never touched a dime. My own attorney thought I'd lost my mind. But somewhere in the back of my head, Helen's voice was still there, reckless, and spending it on myself felt like proof she was right. So I locked every dollar into a discretionary spendthrift trust, managed by me alone, set to release at Lauren's milestones. 25th birthday, wedding, a house someday. I kept working, kept the same apartment, drove a Malibu with 140,000 miles that I fixed myself. Let people think I was cheap. The truth was I was saving every dollar for a girl who could barely look at me. Helen remarried when Lauren was 17. Aiden Hill, always in a blazer, leased luxury cars he swapped every 2 years, called himself a commercial businessman, which in my experience means a man who's never had 2 nickels to his name. By Lauren's early 20s, he'd started taking a real interest in her future trust access. Talked her into paperwork one night that used her future distribution as collateral on a commercial loan for a business that never quite existed. Told her it was routine, told her it was safe. She signed, desperate to impress the family she was marrying into. Neither of us knew, at the time, what he was building brick by brick on a foundation I'd bled for. I don't know how long I sat on that floor with the photo of Lauren and her ice cream cone. Long enough for the light outside to go orange, then gray, then gone. My phone rang. Cincinnati number I didn't recognize. A man who saves his daughter's life for free will not save her wedding for a lie. That's the thought sitting in my chest when I answered. Mr. Reese? This is Becky, the events coordinator at your daughter's venue. I'm so sorry to bother you. We're having issues with the final payment. The wire from your attorney's office failed, and the bank says the funding source is completely blocked. The bride's mother said you'd handle it. Is everything all right? I looked at my scarred hand wrapped around the phone. No, I said. Everything is not all right. Then, cancel the booking. All of it. Sir, the deposit is non-refundable. That's over $40,000. I know, I said. Cancel it anyway. I hung up. I didn't call Lauren. I didn't call Helen. I sat in the dark with a 10-year-old photograph and let the silence talk for me. That was the first time in 15 years I felt like I had control of anything. Not rage. Not revenge. Not yet. Just a man finally putting his hand up and saying no more. Lauren called at 7:14 the next morning while I was eating oatmeal. Same breakfast I've had since she was in diapers. Dad, what did you do? The venue's canceled. Is that true? It's true. Why would you do that? Her voice cracked, and for half a second I felt the old pull, the instinct to fix it, to apologize even when I hadn't done anything wrong. I didn't apologize. You told me to sit in the back row, I said. I'm giving you a little more room back there. You're being cruel. No, sweetheart. I'm being finished. Here's what most people don't know about a discretionary spendthrift trust. It's a legal vault. Because it's discretionary, every dollar runs through me. Aiden knew I'd never approve using it as loan collateral. So he'd forge my signature on the guarantee paperwork, planning to use wedding gifts to quietly clear the debt before anyone noticed. He miscalculated. Monday, I had my attorney freeze all wedding distributions. By Wednesday, the florist, the DJ, the caterer all hit insufficient funds walls. I also pulled the trust backing from the bridge loan on their house. Instead of calling to ask what was happening, Helen went public. Ring light, Kitchen Island, tears on cue, tagging local Cincinnati groups and the Werner family's business page. Asterisk, my daughter's biological father is holding her wedding hostage out of jealousy. Asterisk, hundreds of strangers call me a monster. But tagging the Werners was the mistake. Old money families don't do public brawls. They do quiet, expensive lawyers and quiet exits. And the trap closed on its own. The bounced bridge loan payment triggered a compliance flag at the bank. An auditor pulled Aiden's commercial loan file, saw the forged guarantee signature, and called my attorney to verify it. Jack Reese never signed this. By Wednesday afternoon, it wasn't a family dispute anymore. It was a federal bank fraud investigation. Aiden's accounts were frozen, his loan called due, and the house's mortgage tripled overnight with 30 days to pay or vacate. I won't pretend there wasn't a small, ugly satisfaction in that. Mostly, though, I just felt tired. I want to work at the machine shop in Blue Ash. I ate a three-way alone at Skyline some nights, just to remember what normal felt like. My neighbor Killian kept me updated on the online mess. I refused to check myself. "You all right?" she asked me one night. "I will be," I told her, and for the first time in a long while, I believed it. A text came from Helen's sister Peggy, a woman I hadn't spoken to in a decade. "Asterisk, Jack, you need to see this. Call me, asterisk. Aiden's gone," she said. Packed a bag the night the accounts froze. Didn't say a word to Helen. She woke up to an empty closet and federal investigators serving a warrant. He ran the second the money dried up. The same hands that shielded Lauren from acid 20 years ago had, without meaning to, funded the very house he abandoned her mother in. Small city, small world, the Warners heard about the fraud investigation within the week. A stepfather under federal scrutiny, a smear campaign gone sideways, a frozen trust that had clearly been bankrolling their whole lifestyle. None of that survives contact with a country club. The groom called Lauren that Sunday. His family wished her well and never said the word fraud again. The wedding was over. $100,000 wedding gone. Fiancé gone. Stepfather gone. House about to be gone. And my name was quietly underneath every domino, holding it up until I stopped holding it up. 3 weeks after the tasting table, Helen and Lauren showed up at my door. Helen's makeup was smudged, hair pulled back messy. Lauren looked hollow, her hands, the ones that used to hold mine on Saturdays, shaking at her sides. "Can we come in?" I let them in. I wanted to say what I had to say sitting down, and I wanted them to look me in the eye while I did. Lauren slid to her knees on my living room floor. "Dad, please. I know I hurt you. The venue's gone. The house is gone. Aiden's gone. He used me to commit fraud, and now everything's gone. Please, release the trust." Helen was crying, controlled and practiced. "We have nowhere else to go. Astor's 20 years ago, I had third-degree burns up both arms and nowhere else to go either. Nobody knelt on my floor for me." Asterisk. I let the silence sit. Then Lauren said, barely a whisper, "I remember Saturdays. The smell of vanilla. I remember." She stopped. "Say it. I remember what happened at the plant. I remember what you did for me." She didn't say it. She looked at the carpet instead, and whatever had almost surfaced went back under. That's when something in me finally closed for good. I stood, walked to the small table by the window, and sat down. I put both hands flat on the table, palms down, scarred and shiny, right where neither of them could look away. "You said my hands were too ugly for your wedding day," I said, steady. "But these hands are the only reason you still have a face to cry with right now." I looked at Lauren. "I saved you once, sweetheart. I won't save you again." Nobody moved. I stood, walked past both of them, and closed the curtain on Erie Avenue. I heard the couch creak, footsteps, the door open and close. Just quiet. No ring lights this time. No cameras. Just quiet. Helen and Lauren were out of the house within the month. 30 days on an unbacked bridge loan moves fast. Last I heard through Peggy, they'd landed in a 2-bedroom rental in Norwood. Modest and unremarkable. Same as most places I've lived my whole life. Aiden never resurfaced in Cincinnati. Word came back eventually that the fraud investigation turned into real federal charges. Wire fraud, false collateral. Last anyone heard, he was somewhere in Florida, waiting on a court date he couldn't talk his way out of. The Warners never spoke to Lauren again. Clean, well-lawyered silence. I never released the trust. My attorney restructured it. Locked tighter, terms rewritten so no stepfather, no mother, no future in-law pressure could ever touch it again. Just Lauren, someday, if she makes her own honest way back to it. That's not up to me anymore. I still live in the same 1-bedroom off Erie Avenue. Still drive the same Malibu. Still work the same quiet trade in Blue Ash. Larry still calls me every year around the anniversary. Last time he said, "You did good, Reese. 20 years ago, you did good." I know, Larry. It just took the world a while to catch up. Some Saturdays, I still walk to Aglamisa's Brothers and order vanilla, even though I never like vanilla. I just like watching her eat it. I sit at the counter alone now, And look at these hands, scarred, twisted, ugly, beautiful. And think about a 10-year-old on my shoulders yelling there's my hero to a loading dock full of men who believed her completely. I'd still do it again. 1,000,000 times over. That was never the question. The question was whether she'd ever be brave enough to say thank you. She wasn't. Not yet. But these hands aren't waiting around for it anymore. Asterisk if you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. See you in the next one. Asterisk.